Hello and welcome to our second video tutorial for the session. And in this particular tutorial, we're going to touch on the project management and the information technology context. I believe you have watched the first video and you have understood the concept. And I'm hoping that if you have questions and suggestions, you may put it on our platform for us to discuss. For the meantime, let's move straight to what we have for today. Our learning objectives before we close this particular session, I want you to put in mind that after learning, you should be able to describe the system's view of project management and how it applies to information technology projects. Understand organizations, including the four frames: organizational structures and organizational culture. Explain why stakeholder management and top management commitment are critical for project success, and then understand the concept of a project phase and the project life cycle, and distinguish between project development and product development. So you should be able to also discuss the unique attributes and diverse nature of IT projects. And then describe recent trends affecting IT project management, including globalization, outsourcing, virtual teams, and agile project management. Now, when we say that, first of all, we say that projects cannot be run in isolation. What do we imply? You are operating a company and you are executing a project. You cannot detach the project from your organization. They must go hand in hand. Because of that, we say that project managers need to use what we call system thinking. System thinking. What do we mean by system thinking? That is taking a holistic view of carrying out projects within the context of the organization. So when we talk of system thinking, that is a holistic approach to analysis that focus on the way that a system's constituent parts interacts and how a system works over time and within the context of a larger systems. Okay? And that is what we call taking holistic approach to system thinking. Now, senior managers must make sure that projects continue to support current business needs. Meaning, if you are a senior IT manager within the organization or a senior manager, whatever projects you take must support the long-term needs of that particular organization. So you don't think of just today and then maybe you think this should be in place. How does what you think should be in place actually go to support the entire organization and its needs? That is very important. So that is what we mean by system thinking. So let's look at system view of management or project management. The issue of a systems approach emerged in the 1950s and described a more analytical approach to management and problem solving. And they are normally in three parts. We have what we call the system philosophy, a system analysis, and then systems management. Let's look at what we mean by this. First of all, when we talk of a system view of project management or the systems approach, let's use the human system. You know what a system is? Let's take the human system. We are human beings. I have my head. My head alone consists of mouth, ear, nose, all put together in there. I have the stomach that contains the internal organs. Okay, that is a cavity here, and you have the stomach in there, and the liver. Each of them is a system. It operates its own system. Take a look at the digestive system itself. You take food, you chew it, goes through the stomach, it digests, passes through the intestines, it is absorbed. Okay? And the fecal matter passes through down there. a complete system. So when you take the human being consists of so many systems that interacts to make the human body functional. And that is exactly how a systems work. If you are within an organization and then you are using a system thinking, you're talking about the organization consisting of so many parts put together for the function of that particular organization. That's exactly how I can explain it. So when we talk of system philosophy, an overall model for thinking about things as systems. That means the whole organization is pictured as a system, and whatever you do must go hand in hand with all the aspects of the organization put together. When we talk of the system analysis, we call it the problem-solving approach. And in the system analysis, it is what? Defining the scope, dividing it into components, and evaluating problem needs, opportunities, and constraints within each of what? The divisions that you have made. Okay? So in system analysis, you define the scope of the entire project or the entire system. Then you divide them into components, and then you evaluate the problem, the needs, the opportunities, and constraints within each of the division. That's what you call the problem-solving approach. And then the system management addresses business, technological, and organizational issues before making changes to the system. So you see, if you're building, if you're within an organization, I'm an IT person, you are an IT person, you go there, and you think that this particular product is so unique. But how is the uniqueness of that product aligned to the overall aim of the organization? Okay, so somebody must take the business aspect. Okay, and then when you are done, somebody will ask, all right, the business itself consists of people. The technology that you're bringing, I mean, how does it go hand in hand with me as individual? Okay, and that thing, you must also look at that. So here, system management look at three main areas: business, technological, and the organizational issues before making changes to a particular system. So let's look at this. Three spheres of model for what? Systems management. First of all, let's look at the diagram. I'm talking about the diagram here. The business, the organization, and technology. For instance, the business side will ask you, what will the tablet project cost the college? Let's assume, let me narrate a bit of this. If you have read the book, there was a scenario in which an IT team think that, okay, we want to develop a courseware. This time we want to bring a tablet. And then the tablet will contain all the course material designed in the form of multimedia, so that if someone picks a tablet, he can go to maybe accounting, and the tutorials on accounting is on the tablet. Every course is in there. But the IT guys thought that, well, we've done a good project. Everyone taking the tablet can get access to tutorials and other functions within the tablet, and it's customized for the organization. They sat down, drew every plan, and just wrote the emails to the organization and all the other departments that this is what we intend to do. To their surprise, they met and all of them kicked against the tablet. What is the reason? You are an IT person, you're talking about the technology part, but the business person sees the situation differently. So is the other members of the other departments that are not part of the technology department. So here, the business person will ask, what would the tablet project cost the college? Maybe the IT person didn't think of that. What will it cost a student? What will support cost be? I mean, updates and other things, how much will it cost? And then what will be the impact on enrollment? Is it going to attract more people, or drive the people away. Just like you came to Techiman Cambridge, you saw cameras, and wow, everybody began to complain. Cameras for us, and so many people, when they hear we have cameras, and then they'll be running away. Okay, so in other words, the organization, individuals also, will the tablet project affect all students, just traditional students, or only certain majors? How will the project affect students who already have tablets or laptops? Because some students in the university may already have tablets. Do you understand that? Or computers. Are they going to throw them away or what? Who will train students, faculty, and staff? Who will develop special applications or books for the tablets? So the organization is thinking along that line. Then the technology guys are also thinking that should the tablet be based on Apple, Microsoft, Android, or another system? What application will be required? What will the hardware specification be? How will the tablet affect various networks and speed? Will more power cards be required in the classroom? If you take this model, you see that every individual within the organization may belong to one of these groups and is thinking differently along the organization. So you, the IT manager, how do you approach this? That is what we call the management model of the organization. So let's look at the perspectives on the organization. First of all, we have the other aspect is we're talking about the system management. Okay, so under the system management, we have what we call organizational characteristics, okay, of organizational culture. First of all, structural frames, that is roles and responsibilities, coordination and control, organization charts help describe this frame. And then we have human resource frame, we have symbolic frame, and political frame within each organization. Let's go back. Let me look at this. Okay, so we will explain all these concepts further. So, all these works on the perspective on the organization. So let's look at this. What went wrong? We want to look at some of the IT projects that actually went wrong. There is a paper titled A Study in Project Failure, and two researchers examined a particular project, that is the 214 IT Power project over an 8-year period in several European countries. And they found out this way. These researchers found out that 1 in 8 were considered successful in terms of meeting scope, time, and cost goals. The authors said that the culture within many organizations is often to blame. Among other things, people often do not discuss important leadership, stakeholders, and risk management issues. So, under system management, we have what we call organizational characteristics of organizational culture. And that is what I want us to look at. That is organizational structures. Under organizational structures, we have 3 basic structures. The first one is functional. That is functional managers who report to the CEO. So here, under the functional organizational culture, functional managers report to the CEO. So let's assume there is an ongoing project. The project CEO reports directly to the project manager report directly to the CEO. That is functional. We have what we call projects, where program managers report to the CEO. Okay? So in this case, if you are a project manager, you report to the program manager before the program manager reports to the CEO. And then we have the matrix in which middle ground between the two approaches. And in the matrix, we have personnel often report to 2 or more bosses. And here we are saying that the structure can be weak, balanced, or a strong matrix. Let's look at this diagram. Under the functional, we have the CEO at the head, Vice President Engineering, Vice President Manufacturing, Vice President IT, and HR. They all report directly to the CEO. That is functional. And then when you take project, we have the CEO, Program Manager B, Program Manager C. All other staff report to the program managers before the program managers in turn report to the CEO. And in the matrix approach, you have intermediate bosses before it gets to the CEO. These are the 3 different structures we are talking about here. Now, how does these organizational structures really influences a project? When you take functional, project manager's authority has little or none influence. In a weak matrix, it is very limited. A balanced matrix, it is low, but strong matrix, it is very high. Okay, so this structure, I want you to take and study the structure, and then you will see the organizational structure and how it influences a project. Okay, for instance, in the project management administrative staff, we have normally in a functional, they are normally part-timers. In a weak matrix, they are part-timers. And then a balanced matrix, they are part-timers. But strong matrix, and then in a full project, they are all full-timers. So you see that each of these structures affect how the project actually works. Now let's go back into organizational culture once more. When we talk of organizational culture, we say that it's a set of shared assumptions, values, and behaviors that characterizes the functions of an organization. And many experts believe that underlying causes of many companies' problems are not the structure or the staff, but the culture. Is that true? How would you agree on this? It could be an examination question. Okay? Many organizational problems are not with the staff, nor even the structure, but the culture. How do you explain that? Let's go into detail. Now we have 10 characteristics of organizational culture. I want you to read all the details from the book. It begins with member identity. How does each member identify himself within the organization? What is the group emphasis? Do the people know the actual theme of the organization? Are they going with it? So, what does the organization itself emphasizes on? We have people's focus. Okay? We have unit integration. We have control. When we talk of control, how does the organization allow flexibility of expression? Are people allowed to use their own intuitive to really come out with something, or it is tightly controlled? In a typical organization, people or a project setting, people prefer that we use a balanced approach to control. Okay, sometimes when you leave people too much, they go wayward. But when you want to restrict them they don't innovate, meaning they go by routine work. Okay, we have risk tolerance. To what degree does the organization accept risk? Okay, highly or moderate or not at all. If you are implementing a system for banking, then risk tolerance is normally less. We have reward criteria. What does the organization reward? Is it loyalty, innovation, or what? In some organizations, you are rewarded if you can tell the boss things your colleagues do. Others do is about allegiance. This guy is so much allegiance to me. You have to study the reward criteria within every organization. I have been in certain organizations where you think you are working hard, but I tell you, the bosses don't give you a damn because they are not interested in what you do. It is about how loyal you are to them. Okay, so you have to study. We have conflict tolerance. When conflict arises, how does the organization take it? You go to meetings, you see that, hey, oh no, this one is not it. Oh no, this one. You talk about issues, you feel you've expressed yourself. When you leave the meeting, everything is gone. You're friends. Everybody brings his idea. When someone brings an idea, you counter, and then he doesn't see you as an enemy, but rather what? Also bringing an idea. Does the organization really tolerate that? In some organizations, if the boss brings an idea and you go and counter, he sees you as an enemy. Okay, not as someone also bringing an idea. So conflict tolerance within an organization must be also looked at. We have what we call means end orientation. And this mean end orientation is the degree to which management focuses on the outcomes instead of techniques or processes. Okay, we are interested in the final product. It's not about the technique or the processes. In such cases, the organization must be flexible. In some organizations, they say, this is how we do it. And the procedure must be followed. So when you bring a new idea that can bring a quick outcome, you are not even ready to look at it. But in some organizations, they rather prefer the outcome instead of the technique that was used. So you have to really study. That's what we call means and orientation. And then we have what we call the open system focus. And this open system focus is the degree to which organizations maintains and respond to changes in the external environment. Okay? So here, a project is going on. Quickly, something comes up. How is the organization quickly adapt to the new thing that is coming up? Or is it this is what we started and we must finish? So when organization is able to respond quickly to the environment, then we have a strong open system. So in this case, it is good to have a strong open system so that the organization can respond to changes as and when they occur. So project work is most successful in an organizational culture where these items are strong or high and others are balanced. For instance, control must be balanced. Conflict tolerance must be balanced. So that you can have people expressing their opinion. Sometimes people you think they talk too much. If you listen to them carefully, you see that they make sense and they bring new ideas. So these culture must be well studied so that you know which company you're working on. If you're the manager, you must really find out and adopt the best culture that will help the organization. And then we have what we call stakeholders management. And here, project managers must be able to take time to identify, understand, and manage relationships with all project stakeholders. Listen, when we talk of project stakeholders, the top management are there, the middle management are there, the entire customers are there, suppliers are there, the users of a system, all these are stakeholders. You must be able to bring all of them on board. If not, you will run into trouble. So using the 4 frames of organization can help meet stakeholders' needs and expectations. So that's why you use the 4 frames. Do you remember these 4 frames? Let's go back. Okay? These are the 4 frames: the structural frame, political frame, human resource frame, and then symbolic frame. I think we are going to talk about them again. Good. As we move on. So, Here, using for the four frame, like I just mentioned, senior executives are very important. If you are doing any project and you don't bring senior executives in there, you run into trouble because sometimes they are the ones who approve the financial aspect. If a finance officer of an organization doesn't like the project, obviously he will just be dragging his feet when it comes to approval for spending. If the human resource manager is not ready to commit people to the project. So these top management are very important in executing projects. So you can read from the book, that is chapter 13, that is project management, stakeholders management, for more information. We have what we call media snapshot, and they are often reported on mismanaged IT projects, including disastrous launch. So meaning that when IT projects go wrong, the media is there to really take you on. Okay, few examples are given here. Forbes ran an article on healthcare.gov. It was a website diagnosed that the government broke every rule that was used to really establish this site to manage the healthcare for the United States. So President Obama, formed what we call the Obama Trauma Team of star performers, very good people, experts from several organizations, and what they did was that they helped fix the problem. So sometimes the media can be on your heels, good or bad. The importance of top management commitment is very key. Like I just mentioned to you, they must be committed to the project. Okay, people in top management positions are key stakeholders in the project because the finance officer is committing resources by signing the papers. If he doesn't agree, he will drag his feet. The human resource manager, the same way. Okay, and so you must rope all of them in to help. So without a top management commitment, many projects will fail. And some projects have senior managers called champions. These champions are like a liaison between all the top managers that leads the project team to the top management. And they actually see to every function of the project. They talk to the human resource, they talk to the finance, they talk to the all the top men, so that they coordinate between them and the project. Okay, how can they help? Provide adequate resources, human, capital, money, everything. Provide approving unique project needs on time manner. Then getting cooperation from other parts of the organization, and then mentoring and coaching leadership issues. Very important. So let's look at some of the best practices here. So IT governance addresses the authority and control for key IT infrastructure, IT use, and project management. So every organization has certain IT governance. So a lack of IT governance can be dangerous, as evidenced by 3 well-publicized IT project failures in Australia. Okay, I think you can read about the Sydney Water Customer Relationship Management System, the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology's Academic Management System, and then the One Tel Billing System. I think you can read a lot about them, how these projects failed for lack of IT governance. So when you go to most organizations, we have data managers, system administrators. Each of the structures must be well defined, okay, for the IT governance of the organization. Other than that, sometimes you run into problem when you have conflicts in these governance rules. Then we have need for organizational commitment to information technology. And here, if the organization has a negative attitude towards it or towards IT, it will be difficult for an IT project to succeed. Having a chief information officer at a high level, the organization helps the IT project. Sometimes the chief information officer is part of the board, goes for board meetings and gives them first-hand information about the IT infrastructure. If you don't have somebody representing the IT department at the highest management of the organization. Sometimes it is very difficult convincing them. So assigning non-IT people to IT projects also encourage more commitment. So when you form the team, don't only commit the IT people. You can bring people from the human resource, from the accounts, from what areas of from the sales, engineering, all be part of the IT projects, so that they appreciate the role of the technology for their areas. If you don't do that and you commit only IT people to the project, then you have a tough time convincing the other department why the project is important. Because sometimes, people don't like change. And they know the technology is going to actually change the whole organization. Currently, when we introduce online learning, even among students, look at the protest. Okay? So obviously, you need to roll in people to accept what you're bringing. Always I say that people should be engaged. I don't know the student engagement in this project we are running, but if people still protest, it means they have not gotten the full idea of what is being implemented. Now, need for organizational standards. So standards and guidelines help project managers be more effective. So senior management can encourage the use of standard forms and software for project management. Okay, so every facet of organization, there should be a standard, a standardization, a standard for that particular project, which we must maintain. And the development and the use of guidelines for writing project plans or providing status information. There are specific applications, there are specific software tools that are used to explain every phase of a project. If you don't go by that, you can't write everything in English, because those areas help you to explain the project to the stakeholders. For example, if you use critical path, last time I explained some of them to you in the introduction. The Gantt charts, a whole lot of them to explain the concept. Draw your graphs, explain profit analysis in the short term and then in the long term. Because probably you're committed about $500 million to a particular project. If you're not able to convince them the benefits, then obviously they will not accept. Okay? So here, the creation of a project management office or center of excellence is very necessary. Sometimes you need that. Now, project phases and the project life cycle. When we talk of a project life cycle, it's a collection of project phases that defines what work will be performed in each phase, what deliverables will be produced and when, who is involved in each phase, how management will control and approve work produced in each phase, and the deliverable is the product or service produced or provided as part of a project. If you implement a project, what is the outcome? What is the organization going to get from it? That is what we call the project deliverable. So all these listed here are from the project phases. Some of them you've done already in software development life cycle. Okay, so more on this in early phase of a project life cycle, resource needs are usually lowest because you're not taking off. You need few things to take off. The level of uncertainty is very high because you don't know how the project is going to end. You are now beginning. Then project stakeholders have the greatest opportunity to influence the project. When the project at its initial stages, that is where the project stakeholders can actually influence, because when you build it almost to the end, then you have less option of changing. But at the beginning, if you have anything, that is where you can actually influence the project. In the middle phase of a project life cycle, the certainty of completing a project improves more resources are then needed because now you see the outcome to be a bit closer. You've had an idea how it should be done, and therefore you commit more resources. The final phase of the project life cycle focuses on ensuring that project requirements were met. The sponsor approves completion of the project. So at the final stages, that is when you go to testing and know that, oh, we set out to complete this project. The outcome meets the objectives that we set out. And therefore, you can now approve and then hand over. That's the final phase of a project life cycle. Now, phases of the life cycle. We have what we call that's the phases of the traditional project life cycle. We have the concept, development, implementation, and close out. Between concept and development, that form the initial and the almost middle phases. So we do project feasibility. Less resources are committed because you are not very clear how the outcome will be. So we have the business case, the preliminary cost estimates, and then we have the two-level WBS. The WBS simply means work breakdown structure. So we have the two-level work breakdown structure. So sample deliverables for each phase. That is what at the conception level, that's what you have. At the development level, we have project management plan. That is the deliverable because you conceive a project. Now, when you bring the plan, it actually completes the feasibility stage. That's the deliverable for the project feasibility stage. So project management plan, budgetary cost estimation is also another deliverable. And then we have the level work breakdown structure. Under the implementation stage, execution of project packages. That is all because in the project plan, you should have timelines, how each phase will be completed. Okay? Who will be involved in each phase. That forms the plan. So under the implementation, then you now go ahead and execute the work. So execution of work packages. Here you come out with definitive cost. The first one was budgetary estimations. When the project is actually being implemented, that is where you have the actual cost, okay, of the project. So you come out with definitive cost. And then performance reports are now being produced. Because here, like I said, each phase is being executed. So the performance at each phase, you must have a report on that and discuss them in several meetings with stakeholders. Now, in closeout, work is completed. You've learned your lessons, and then customer acceptance of the work, okay, now comes into operation. So this forms the actual traditional project life cycles. Now, let's go on to project life cycles in detail. Products also have life cycles. Just like you have project life cycle, the product itself that you produce also have life cycles. So the system development cycle is a framework for describing the phases involved in developing and maintaining information systems. So in the project system development life cycle, you see that you have the conception of the project to completion, maintenance, and then what? So the project evolves after it has been submitted or delivered. It goes through updates, maintenance for a period of time. Then you say that now this project has outlived its usefulness before it is discarded. So this one is the product life cycle. We have what we call the system development project can follow what we call predictive life cycle. And that is the scope of the project can be clearly articulated and the schedule and cost can be predicted. And we have what we call adaptive life cycle. Here, requirements cannot be clearly expressed. Projects are mission-driven and component-based, using time-based cycles to meet target dates. Okay, so the product life cycles, these two actually talks about them, where you can predict exactly the scope of the project and you can clearly articulate the schedules, and cost can also be predicted when you start from the inception of the project to the end. The adaptive life cycle, a lot of uncertainties are there, and therefore project costs and estimate cannot be really ascertained. So you use time-based cycles to meet targeted days, and so on and so forth. So let's look at these predictive life cycles. So some of the software development methodologies really follows what we call the predictive life cycle. Waterfall is one. Waterfall, if you remember, we said that all requirements should be known. Each phase must be well completed. If you make a mistake, you have to restart every part of the project. Okay? So that's why we use what we call predictive life cycle. So they include waterfall, the spiral model, incremental build model, prototyping, and then the rapid application development. All these are part of the predictive life cycle. I believe you've studied this under the software development life cycle. So waterfall goes like this. We have analysis, design, and so on and so forth. I hope you remember that. It is part of your... Then we have the spiral, implementation, design, analysis, and what? Testing. Go hand in hand. Then we have the Agile software development. They normally follows the adaptive life cycle. It has become very popular nowadays. Okay, and it's a software development describing new approach that focus on close collaboration between programming teams and business experts. So the Agile methodology is used, and you must form a strong collaboration between the business partners and the technology experts. So you can read them in chapter 3. Okay, that's our next chapter. We'll go there very soon. So the importance of these project phases. So a project should successfully pass through each of the project phases in order to continue on the next. So management reviews, also called the phase exits. See, every stage or phase or stage within these cycles, management must meet and know, are we successful? Is the deliverables really what we want? Okay, if you don't review and you complete the entire project and you kill and you come and then you realize that you made a mistake along the line, then the whole project becomes useless. Must start everything. So management reviews, also called phase exits or kill points, should occur after each phase to evaluate the project progress, likely success, and continuing compatibility with the organizational goals. You weigh each of the stages after you complete. So let's look at what went wrong. Here's what went right. The real environment that I saw was in our ability to, in the words of Thomas Edison, know when to stop beating our dead horse. And actually, Edison was narrating about a certain story that emanated from a project they executed. So Edison's key to success was that he failed fairly often, but as he said, he could reorganize. That's what I was telling you, that at each phase, you convey a meeting. You let your stakeholders review what has been done within the phase and evaluate it, whether you were successful or not. So Edison was saying that they fail very often in the phase, but because they reviewed the phases, he could go back and correct his errors. Just imagine that there was no evaluation and he executed each phase, and then after they finished, before they come back to really review, what will you do? You are in the last phase and you made a mistake in the first phase. Then you see that you are really you're really in trouble. Okay, so that is why he's saying that that was the right thing to do. So for each phase of a project, you have to really review and know you are on course before you move on. So many organizations like the Huntington Bank shares in company, you use an executive steering committee to help keep projects on track. So you form a steering committee, consists of stakeholders of each department, and then you review each phase to see how effective you've been. So some projects still go on in a long time before being killed, like the Blizzard's Titan game project. You can read about the Blizzard's Titan project too. So the context of IT projects, let's come back home and compare these theories with IT projects. So IT projects can be very diverse in terms of size, complexity, products produced, application areas, and resource requirements. So IT project team members often use diverse backgrounds and sets. So IT projects use diverse technologies that change rapidly. Even within one technology area, people must be highly specialized. IT is highly evolving. If you start a project that is going to take you about 6 months to complete, you have to know that as and when IT, the environment changes, you can't vary the project to meet what? The requirement. That is why I talked to you about the open system focus. How the organization can adapt to changes in the environment is very important. So you start building an application, and before you complete, you see a different one in the market that really even outperforms what you built. What do? Good. So recent trends affecting IT projects. We have what we call globalization. You set out to develop an application for a company. You don't know what someone else is doing in the other parts of the globe. Okay? So there is so much globalization to the extent that applications are not really restricted to a particular area or era. There is a globalization where the world has become a global village where technology is joining all of us. So you have to really be able to study what is going on in other parts of the globe and then situate your project in the worldwide context. We have what we call outsourcing. In other words, you can also develop a project that can become globalized, okay, that the whole world will benefit. We have outsourcing, that is when an organization acquires goods or source it from an outside. Normally, offshoring is sometimes used to describe outsourcing from another country. Okay, we need this. Contact a company in, let's say, Nigeria for them to build. Outsourcing has become the order of the day, where from infrastructure to applications, everything are outsourced by a different country. And sometimes too, we also look at virtual teams, where a virtual team, that is a group of individuals who work across time and space, using communication technologies. They can be situated in different areas of the globe, okay? And they can still come together and work on a project from different parts of the world. Then we have Agile project management. It's also there. So important issues and suggestions related to globalization. First of all, in the issues of communication, trust, common work practices and tools. Okay, these are issues. You must be able to speak the same language. The people working together, you must be able to understand and come together to agree on what exactly you want to do, no matter where you are. And then trust. You must be able to build trust. Okay, in order to be able to work. Then common work practices. You follow the same standardization. So if you look at a team like the Internet Engineering Task Force, it's a team comprised of members from different countries that work together. But the issues of communication, trust, practices, and even tools used are really aligned to meet the whole needs of the entire group. Suggestions: employ greater project discipline. Think global but act local. When we say think global, meaning that your scope of project development must really encompass the whole globe. But you think of a local solution, how you can come together as local people to develop that particular product. Then keep project momentum going. Then use newer tools and technologies so that your project will not become outdated right upon its completion. That is not correct. So let's look at outsourcing. Organizations remain competitive by using outsourcing to their advantage, such as finding ways to reduce costs. Outsourcing can really reduce costs, okay? Because if you need you outsource from another company one time, or if it's a service, the company provides a service, you pay the cost. You don't need to employ, train people, and all those costs are taken away, okay? Their next challenge is to make strategic IT investment with outsourcing by improving their enterprise architecture to ensure that IT infrastructure and business processes are integrated and standardized. And project managers should become more familiar with negotiating and contracts and other outsourcing issues. So in fact, here, if the project is to be outsourced, then you need good negotiators, okay, to be able to follow through. Sometimes when you are sex, you need an agreement. You have to be able to pen down an agreement as to the role of both you, the one outsourcing, and the company that is providing the service. We have global issues with outsourcing. There is also disadvantages. For example, Apple benefits from manufacturing products in China. There's a case scenario here. But it had bigger problem there after its iPhone 4S launch in January 2012 caused fighting between migrant workers who were hired by scalpers to stand in line to buy their phones. When Apple said it will not open its store in Beijing, rows resulted and people attacked security guards. The Beijing Apple store has had problems before. In May 2011, 4 people were injured when a crowd waiting to buy the iPad 2 turned ugly. So here, Apple is a company in the United States, but it outsources its iPhone products to be manufactured in China. Now, after launching, there was a fight. This scenario can be replicated in several organizations where an outsourced material can become an issue in its local country where the company originates. So these things must be taken into consideration. We have also virtual teams. Advantages here include increasing competitiveness and responsiveness by having a team workers available 24/7. Most of the time, these teams can really organize quickly and work almost at all times, okay? And they can beat all competition. And they normally lower cost because many virtual workers do not require office space or support beyond their home office. Virtual teams sometimes small space in their local area because they compare globally. You don't need a special place to meet, to plan. Providing more, because they always meet on technology. Of late, virtual teams meet on Google Classroom, Zoom, and other technology platforms to share ideas. Provide more expertise and flexibility by having team members from across the globe working any time of the day or night. And then they increase work-life balance for team members by eliminating fixed office hours and need to travel to work. Sometimes you are in a plane, travel, no, all these are eliminated. So virtual team also have disadvantages. Isolated team members. You can have team members being isolated, okay? And sometimes that can become a disadvantage. Increasing potential for communication problems. Have you ever had a situation whereby you are talking, you think the other person understands, but actually he doesn't? Especially from different countries with different languages. Language barrier can easily become a problem. Then reducing the ability for team members to work and transfer information informally. That's also another trouble. Then increasing the dependency or dependence on technology to accomplish work. Normally they depend on technology solely. And see text for a list of factors. You can read more from the book. Then we have what we call the Agile project management. And here, Agile means being able to move quickly and easily, but some people feel that project management, as we have already indicated, does not allow people to work quickly or easily. So early software development projects often use waterfall approach, but currently the trend is changing. The technology is moving to Agile, and what it means is that using methods based on iterative incremental development, in which requirements and solutions evolve through what? Collaboration. So here we don't sit to plan all our requirements like we did in the waterfall. Agile is becoming one of the technologies being employed today for IT project development. And it makes sense for some projects, but not all of them. Okay. So many seasoned experts in project management want people not to fall for hype associated with Agile. What's the reason? Because sometimes if you don't have your requirements, you can keep on evolving, and you wouldn't know the outcome of the project you are developing. And that can become a disadvantage. So that's a manifesto for Agile software development. Okay? This one in February, a group of 17 people called itself the Agile Alliance developed and agreed on the manifesto for Agile development. And this is what he said. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others to do it. Through this work, we have come to value that individuals and interactions over processes and tools. That means they value individuals and interaction as compared to processes and tools used. The software must work over comprehensive documentation. If you have a whole lot of documentation, but the software doesn't function properly, then I don't see the advantage there. So, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. How you can collaborate with customers to find out what they want as compared to contract negotiation. Now, responding to change over following plan. Okay? An organization must be able to respond to changes as compared to our ability to follow plans. That is the manifesto developed by the Agile group. So Scrum Alliance also came and is the leading Agile development method for completing projects with a complex, innovative scope of work. The term was coined in 1986 in Harvard. Okay? Yes. You remember the Scrum. That's under project development lifecycle. So I want you to go back and read it. So Scrum framework. Product owner creates prioritized wish or backlog. Then a sprint backlog. Project team creates a sprint backlog, and then team have daily Scrum meetings. During each meeting, 2 to 4 week sprint, and then potential shippable products. After that, you review and restart. That's the Scrum framework. Okay, we have the Kanban technique that can be used in conjunction with Scrum. Toyota actually developed this model and then uses visual cue to guide workflow. Kanban cards show new work in progress, and work completed. It's just like the Gantt chart and the rest of those software development tools. So we also have the Agile PM board guide and a new certification. There's a certification guide that really describes best practices for what should be done to manage projects. I think you can read about this. The Project Management Institute recognized the increased interest in Agile and introduced a new certification in 2011 called the Agile Certified Practitioner. So seasoned project managers understand that they have always had the option of customizing how they run projects, but that project management is not easy, even when using Agile. So that is it. So in chapter summary, so far we've talked about project management and the need to take systems approach when working on projects. Organizations have 4 different frames. That is structural, human resource, political, and symbolic. Here, let me explain further a bit. The structure talks about the organization structure. That's what you call the organizational chart. CEO, this report to that, this report to that. Okay, we have the human resource. The human resources, they are also there. Then we have the politics of the organization. When you go to every organization, you have to look at the politics in that particular organization in order to fit. The symbolic is what is meant by each of the symbols within the organization. When we say symbol, what does it mean? Sometimes you get to our organization, there is a meeting, you think you are a new staff, you are talking your mind, but every word you said there means something to those people. So before you even leave the meeting, you are tagged. You are tagged as something, and they are going to penalize you for everything you said. In such organizations, if you are an IT person and you convey a meeting, you want to solicit the ideas of the members. You see each of them keeping quiet. It is not because they don't know what they have to say or they don't understand what you're saying, but because there is some boss there who is using every word you say against you to punish you later. And these are symbols within the organization. So here you must study the culture and the symbols within the organization for you to be able to approach how to go about your project. The structure and culture of an organization have strong implications for project managers. Projects should successfully pass through each phase of the project life cycle, and project managers need to consider several factors due to the unique context of information technology projects. So, we also talk about recent trends affecting IT project management, including globalization, outsourcing, forming virtual teams, and agile project management. I hope we have understood, and I want you to read further from the books and get the concept properly. Meanwhile, if you have further questions, don't remember to reach me. God bless you and stay safe. Thank you.